Will the meeting of the Ogdensburg State Town Council please come to order for our special meeting held Tuesday, August 27th. At this time, I would like to have the roll call read.
Okay, Don Henry.
Here.
Chris Udall.
Here.
Catherine Segura. Here. Scott Keller. I don't see. Candy Clemente. Here. Cliff Grimes.
Here.
And myself, Mary Johnson. So that is 6 out of 7, and a quorum is established.
Good enough. Then we'll continue with this meeting. It's official now. And the first item we have up here for our discussion is the approval of this agenda. So I'm open for anybody who thinks that we need to add something to it. Keep in mind this is a special meeting that is only going to address the GDD. So if anybody wants to make any changes, and if not, I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda as drafted.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second it. Well,
okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. All right.
Mary, you had a comment on it.
I just wanted for everybody who is not on the council, I could put up the agenda, but the only thing we're going to discuss tonight is the trash.
Right.
Only trash tonight.
North County Solid Waste Collection Service Draft EIR. And
yes.
The GDD, also known as the Garbage Disposal District.
And the only reason why we're doing this is because the comments have to be in by September 5th, and we don't have a meeting until September 11th. So we're doing it now.
Well, firstly, I would like to thank Mary Johnson for setting this meeting up and getting the notices out and everybody alerted. I appreciate it very much. I know it's a thankless job, but I thank you. So with that said, I was unable to attend the meeting that was held at the library. I believe it was the 21st. And so I'm going to look for anyone who was able to attend if they have any kind of a summary or anything they would like to share that they feel is important or what they learned. I had one comment on a text from an outsider that said it was a waste of time. So
I would agree with that. Completely agree.
That's all I have to share. But yeah. I'm open at this moment for anybody's comment concerning that particular meeting. Yes, Chris, you got the screen, it looks like, and we got you.
I just switched it on. I mean, I think I've shared some thoughts and feedback with Mary, but I think we should call out the inadequacy of the content of that meeting in our feedback. It was pointless. Essentially what they did was they probably spent as much time talking about CEQA as they did talking about their plan. They wheeled out a fairly senior member of LA County Public Works, and she said probably 3 words, and then they gave the subcontractor the floor to discuss the 5 different options that they've got. One option is do nothing. Option 4 is create a garbage disposal district. And then options 2, 3, and 5, I guess, are the ones on the table. They highlighted at a very, very, very high level the pros and cons of each approach. I couldn't understand why option 1 and option 4 were actually even in the presentation if they're not being considered. It's totally redundant. And there was simply no substance to the meeting. There was nothing like, of the 3, this is the one that we're leaning towards because we feel it offers these advantages or disadvantages. So I think the text that you got was entirely accurate. It was a waste of time.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I took the liberty to pull up the EIR and the CEQA documents, and I must be honest, I did not read all 917 pages, but what I focused on were the frequency asked questions, which I thought, I'm going to digest all this, and then I'm sure I'm going to come up with a question that's already been asked. And of course, the question I had was concerning what the costs were going to be, and the answer in the frequently asked questions, because apparently that is frequently asked, was Public Works will inform the community once this information is available. So that's a little concerning. It's hard to make a decision without knowing what the cost of that decision might be. But, being that I wasn't there, does anybody else have anything else that they would like to share?
Yeah, they actually weren't answering any questions at this meeting. So you could have asked that question directly of them, including to the person who's in charge of the project, and it still wouldn't have been answered.
Okay.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'll be honest. I was highly disappointed because their lack of public outreach just continues. There was lack of public outreach to begin with this whole project back from 2022, and it continues. They took absolutely no questions. All they did was pretty much read out of the executive summary. So if you had questions about what was actually in the DEIR, and they told us early on, we're not going to answer any questions. We're only going to be here to take public input and public comments. So we've had them on the agenda since 2022, and we said we wanted to have them come, and we've had somebody from Public Works at almost every meeting, and they were saying that the DEIR is coming out, the DEIR is coming out. Well, it's come out, but nobody has given us any clue on what this is about. And bottom line, it's once again, the purpose has changed from the original. They started off with I think it's initial study negative declaration, and they did that twice because the first time they didn't put everything together, and then after the second time that they put it out, they realized that they needed to do an EIR. So I would have guessed that the purpose would have been the same thing, but the purpose has completely changed.
Okay.
On the original, the EIS was, it was really, the original one was to make sure we're in compliance with SB 1383. SB 1383 is a law that the state legislature passed that said you've got to separate out the organics from the trash.
Right. Okay.
So that was what the original initial study was. Now their purpose is improved services, reduce illegal dumping, improve customer service, offer consistent level of service, carefully manage rates, and compliance with state laws.
Okay.
And this whole improved service, the reduce illegal dumping, what they are doing is right now, Public Works is responsible for picking up illegal dumping in the right-of-way.
Okay.
They are putting that onto whoever the trash collector will be, that they have to pick up the illegal dumping in the right-of-way. It doesn't reduce illegal dumping. As Chris said at the meeting, it encourages illegal dumping because somebody who comes and dumps it, gets it picked up, 2 days later, they can dump again.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I'm so frustrated with this whole concept.
Well, and I know that there's a task force in Acton headed up by Tammy Necessary, if I'm not mistaken. And it's amazing how much, it's phenomenal the amount of trash that they pick up.
Yeah.
And so it's an ongoing situation. And as the cost to dump increases, we're only going to have more of the illegal dumping. But with that said, what is the council's feeling? I know we wrote a letter in 2022, 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. And, we're all volunteers here, okay? They're being paid for whatever they do, whatever position they hold. And here we drafted 6 pages of our concerns, and did it sound at all like they addressed our concerns? Or I haven't received any answer to these concerns. Or where do we want to go with this? Is what I'm.
Okay, they did. They added some alternates based on our suggestions. So they did take it into account. I think Chris had sent some highlights. Chris, why don't you go ahead and get started, and then I will jump in, and Cliff was at the meeting also, and anybody else who has gone through the EIR and can kind of follow along, and just kind of go through, and we'll make notes on comments that we need to include.
It might be an idea if I can share my screen, Mary. I can get the Word document up and put it up for people to read through at their own pace.
Yeah, hold on.
So
there you go.
Good.
I think we're working now.
Okay, so let me do that. Has it gone away again?
Nope, you're good.
You're good.
Okay, well, I can't actually see it, so let me see if I can customize my view here. No. All right, so I'll just scroll through it here. So I think we touched on the first point. I thought the presentation, I think the rest of us did, was utterly inadequate, and I think we should call them out on that. The second point I make is that when you look at the presentation, and they talk about organic waste disposal, there's a caveat in there that says that it's possible that the statewide organic waste processing capacity will be exceeded. And I think that is an utterly unacceptable statement to make, because the reality is there's, I think, 40 to 45 million people live in California. There's about 10 million people in LA County. So there's 20 to 25% of the population of the entire state of California that resides in LA County. And here what you've got them saying is that other agencies might produce so much organic waste that it exceeds the capacity of the places that we plan to send it to. Well, guess what? You should have, as part of this plan, a very clear statement that you have the current and future capacity to process the organic waste that you want to collect under this SB 1383. Because otherwise what you're going to do is you're going to charge people to, you're going to make people separate out their trash, you're going to charge them extra to pick it up on whatever schedule you end up picking it up on, and then there may be nowhere for it to go. So why the hell are we doing it in the first place if there's not the capacity to deal with it? So I think the fact that they've admitted that they haven't really properly planned out the disposal capacity as part of this is a very key deficiency in the overall document, and that because they are responsible for such a large number of people in the 10 million, that they should be sent back to the drawing board by the Board of Supervisors and asked to go and create the contingency that explains how they're going to handle the organic waste rather than just kicking the can down the road to some other agency. So that was one thing that came to mind. The third thing in my list was that the county should make it easier for what I call the honest to be honest. So if you want a half-ton dump voucher today that Supervisor Barger's office has made available, and you tell somebody, hey, you know what, you can get a free dump voucher to take stuff, anything you want, off to the dump, and you can get 2 in the next 12 months that you've got to use before June 30th next year. Then you tell them, well, actually what you've got to do is you've got to schlep over to the supervisor's office in Lancaster during business hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Take your ID to show that you actually are in an unincorporated area of the county. It immediately excludes a pretty decent number of people who would actually take advantage of this, because now they've got to make a, for Fragwadelsi, a 40 to 50 mile round trip. The dump voucher process itself, if they're going to continue this, should be online. You should just be able to fill out a form, hit send, it arrives at the supervisor's office in Lancaster. They take the ID that you've scanned and PDF'd with your application, they confirm you're in the office and that you're in the district and you're eligible, and then they either email or mail you back the dump certificate. If they're concerned about people using other people's dump certificates, they can put the applicant's driver license number on the certificate they issue, and if Waste Management gets somebody showing up the gate whose license doesn't match the license on the approved form that the county has issued, they can turn them away. So I think they need to make that process simpler, because it will encourage people then to use it. It's a disincentive the way they've got it set up at the moment, and potentially that's on purpose. The next point I got was that there are free dump days. I think there's one coming up at the beginning of October. There's another one in April. And again, I think we talked about this at a town council meeting recently. And the first thing that Don says, well, yeah, but you've got to get there at 4 or 5 in the morning so that you don't end up sitting in a line of traffic for 2 to 3 hours. And again, that's a challenge now, because even though it's free to dump up to a ton of trash, the perception amongst the population that would take advantage of it is, yeah, but you're going to wait in line for some indiscriminate or infinite amount of time before you get to use it. And again, that's a disincentive. So I think the free dump days should probably be made more frequent, go from twice a year to perhaps once every quarter. I can't see that if it avoids people dumping trash on the side of the road that they would otherwise take to the dump if they could do it for free, is that, the cost of doing these days an extra couple of times is probably going to defray the cost of picking up the trash that's otherwise going to end up on the side of the road somewhere. So the next thing I suggested is that adding a truck that's available to collect illegally dumped waste doesn't really solve the illegal dumping problem. And as Mary said, I made this comment in public at the meeting, but the people who are dumping waste in our communities typically don't live here. They're either coming in from Santa Clarita with building waste, or they're passing through on their way back to Lancaster, Palmdale, or wherever, the Antelope Valley, and just using the opportunity of darkness to just dump whatever they feel like on the side of the street. And the cost to us in this proposal is that you're going to pay for an extra truck, which is going to make 5 trips a day, or 5, I can't remember the number of trips, it's in the presentation they sent. But I don't see how that is really a benefit to us. Sure, it gets the dumped trash off the side of the road, but at the end of the day, the dumping of that trash, if it had gone to the right place, would have been $100 plus to the people who dumped it there. And we're actually paying the fees that the dumper should be paying. So if LA County Public Works is going to say, right, we're no longer going to do this, and that's going to be done by the waste hauler, I think what we should suggest is, okay, well, take the budget that you're currently spending with Public Works running around picking up trash, and tell the people who are responsible for that budget that they're going to redirect it to the Sheriff's Department and the District Attorney's Office, and create a more efficient and effective prosecution process for these individuals, which I think should include seizure and disposal of the vehicles. If you find somebody dumping on the side of the street, you get that license, you get a clear view of them, and you're able to testify that it's proven in court that they were actually active in that, then their vehicle should go, irrespective of their financial means. If it's the only car and they've got to walk to the store, or their immigration status. I think we've been way too soft on the illegal dumping, and it's insufficient just to say, let's make somebody pay for it so Waste Management can trundle around the neighbourhood and pick all this stuff up. It has to be done as part of a broader process to enforce these, make illegal dumping more painful. The last point I made, and it really was a discussion that Mary and Cliff and I were having along with Cindy after the meeting, is really, it's a refinement of what they're proposing. So LA County has, I think, a couple of concepts where they create 2 or 3 different types of trash bin, a general trash bin, a green waste trash bin, and a recycling trash can, and then they pick them up on a rotating timetable, which is I think is a good idea. It's certainly what they do in Europe. But I think there are things that we could suggest to them that they do that are similar to what we've discussed in points 2 and 3, where we think that, I'm suggesting that these free dump days and dump vouchers become more readily available. If you look at what the Leicestershire City Council or the Leicester County Council does in the UK. Leicester is the equivalent of a state. It's in the middle of the UK. And the city in the middle of it has 400,000 plus residents. And just like Santa Clarita or Los Angeles, it's grown and grown and grown and absorbed these rural communities. And in the UK, you pay what's called a council tax, which is the equivalent of property tax. And the waste disposal is part of that annual council tax fee. So in the UK, if I was getting rid of my waste into these different containers, I put recyclables in one, regular waste in another, and I would have the option whether I take a green waste barrel or not, depending on whether I actually need one. I think in LA County's model here, you're going to get all 3, whether you need all 3 or not. And then on a weekly basis, I can go to that council's website and say, well, what day this week are they going to come and pick up which barrel, and make sure it's sitting outside the house when they come by. But over a 2-week basis, all those containers are emptied. And this is one of the proposals that LA County's making, which I think is worth supporting. But I think that we should ask LA County whether the green waste barrel can be made optional, so that if people need one, they can pay some additional money to the waste hauler for that green waste service. If they don't need one, if they don't have a yard that produces a lot of green waste, leaves, that sort of stuff, they should just be able to just take the recycling and the general waste barrel. Inside the recyclable barrel in the UK, there's actually another tote that sits in the top of it, and you put very specific recycling items into that tote, and then when the recycling truck comes around, they empty the barrel into one side and the contents of the recycling tote into the other. So there's a further refinement of the separation. And again, one of the things that has been suggested, although it seems to be an either-or, is that the county could use these multi-container or partitioned trash trucks to pick the waste up. The other thing that they do, I think, very effectively is that within that county, I think there's 8 to 12 municipal sites, and these are normally located where the trash trucks are warehoused, so it's at the depot where they keep the trash trucks. And what they did in the UK, which I think is particularly impressive, is that they created this U-shaped driveway, which is quite long. This site's probably about an acre, and there's a little, toll booth, if you like, at the entry. You can drive in there any day of the week, 9 till 5, including weekends, and you can drop off a whole variety of things into these designated roll-on, roll-off dumpsters that are sitting. So you just pull your car up to the side of the road, you walk over, you see the labels, and they're expected to have obtained a waste permit from the local agency, the county council, to be able to dump what they've got in there. It's typically building waste and occasionally gardening waste. And there are certain types of waste, like sheetrock and asbestos, that even a homeowner would be asked to pay a small amount of money for if they want to drop it off in the dumpster. And I've included the website link there, and I think it would be very worthwhile for LA County Public Works to reach out to an agency like this and see exactly how they're doing it, because I think that what the county is proposing could be a lot better, because if you make this type of facility available through someone like Waste Management on county land, then you've got the additional ability for people to drop off green waste, oil, e-waste, that sort of stuff at their own leisure. There isn't, there's an alternative to living on the side of the road. And we've got one further thing that happens in the UK, and this has been happening for many, many years before these more advanced types of centre came on board. And these are small dumpsters, probably about 10 feet by 10 feet. They're specifically made and specifically coloured in different colours, and they're typically found in or around supermarkets. And these are places where you can go off and drop very specific types of waste that can be recycled, like wine bottles, aluminum cans, and often charities like Oxfam will put barrels in there that you can put clothes in, which can be recycled or turned into rags. So I think that's another thing that's worth suggesting to the county, that they actually take a look at how it's been done, I think, properly. And I think also they can take a look at how the waste is handled once it's gone out of that centre, and understand how it's processed, because somebody at the meeting from the Antelope Valley made a comment that a huge amount of green waste is actually ending up in Nenach. And if you've got applications like PulsePoint or Watch Duty on your phone, you'll see that regularly there are fires out of the 138, and that is being caused, according to the person who attended the meeting, by the spontaneous combustion of these 6 to 8 feet deep piles of recycled green waste that Crown Recycling is taking up from recycling centres in places like Sun Valley and dumping in the Antelope Valley. The other comment, and I made this comment to the members of the Department of Public Works who are present, is that there is a contract here that's going to impact exclusively Agua Dulce and Acton. And both of those towns have a town council. And we certainly understand what our constituents like and what they don't like. And I suggested, and I think we should consider suggesting this, that the town councils nominate members who can be part of the process of overseeing this contract with whoever it is that it gets awarded to make sure that there aren't any gotchas in there that are going to cause a huge amount of angst when it actually gets signed on the dotted line. And the final point I make here is, after it's signed on the dotted line, and there were representatives from Waste Management there, is that there was a situation that arose in 2022 in the city of Santa Clarita, where they took a long-term contract that they'd been working on with Waste Management, who was picking up all the trash for the city of Santa Clarita, and they basically put Burtec in the place instead. And when you look at why they made that change, and it's been reported in the media, the city of Santa Clarita, who've got people who are skilled at doing this and paid full time to do this, felt that Waste Management had the lowest technical ability, the lowest knowledge about the industry, and the lowest knowledge of the law, including the Senate Bill 1383. So it's very important that any contract that's made with a waste disposal company is made for a reasonable period of time, because this is a very new way of processing waste, and I think there needs to be a reasonable but short period of time with suitable exit clauses. So if that waste hauler is failing to meet the agreed upon performance targets, or we're paying for services for trash to be processed in a certain way and it's not being processed in that certain way, then I think we as residents must have an option to say, well, if you can't do this service, we need to bid that out to someone else and see if there are others who can actually do the service that you're charging us for. So that was my takeaway. I did talk to the representatives from LA County Public Works and said, look, I mean, clearly you've got these components that you've laid out in these different options. Are we allowed to make suggestions to you about how these could be improved upon? And they said, absolutely. This is a draft EIR, not a final EIR that's up for review. So if you've got comments and suggestions like that, please feel free to make them. So making these suggestions doesn't appear to be outside of the scope of the feedback that the county is expecting.
May I say something?
Sure.
Going back to the types of waste, and because of where we live and how we live, the whole idea of organic waste being in a barrel outside your property in the rural area is not good. Animals are patterned. They will know that there's food in these things, and it's going to be ugly.
With all the animals, the birds and the dogs and whatnot.
Yes.
Okay, all right. That needs to be taken.
Coyotes, all of it. It's going to be all over the place. There's no track sprawl that they cannot get into. So for having that and the way we live and the spread out we are, this is going to be ugly.
That along, I think also the wind factor that we expect.
Oh gosh, yes.
You know, at from time to time, and then also the rain can carry. You know, these barrels can float when they're empty, and oftentimes many of the residents are still working their way home on the 14 freeway in the wintertime, long after
in the dark.
Long after the bin's been dumped, and so for them to find out which bin is theirs and to make certain it gets put onto their property, that may be a challenge.
Yep. But especially the rating of the animals, that's going to be really bad.
Looks like Cliff's got his hand up there. Cliff, yes, please unmute yourself and let's hear your take.
Hey, Don, thanks for the time. Yeah, one of the things that, hang on, let me turn my video on here. So,
there we are.
One of the things that I'd like to say is first, Chris, thanks for summing everything up, and Mary and Catherine or Candy, I'm sorry, for your thoughts on this. We went there and we observed this presentation. What we heard is 5 options, and all of them were significant and unavoidable, as they call that. So I'm not sure that we all can do things that are significant and unavoidable that could hurt others or the environment. So first off, I think that, like Chris has talked about all the different ideas, I don't think they're exploring all the options. They've got to dig in deeper and find different ways to do it. Dumping the product out on 138 where, Cindy looked at some of the videos and saw them dumping what they thought was organic waste, and a lot of it had diapers and batteries and other types of trash in there that are contaminating our areas. I know that, like Chris and Mary had indicated, we should not pay extra taxes to have people clean up other people's dumping. We shouldn't put our dumpsters out by the road where people can throw whatever they want in there. You see it all the time, oil being dumped, animals, trash, waste from facilities that are doing illegal grow houses, things like that. So all these things are just going to come and land in our dumpsters. And oh, by the way, we're responsible because we're the ones that have the dumpsters out there at the end of our property or wherever. There's a lot of different opportunities they could look at. You want to incentivize, I think, people to not create so much waste. I mean, Mary had a great point that if you have a place you can take green waste and it can be chipped, mulch, recycled, whatever, and turn into something that is a useful material, I think that's great. I think having the ability to recycle glass, plastic, aluminum, bimetal, all these things, having a location where people can go and dump those off locally. They need to be manned, of course, because otherwise people are going to throw things in there that don't belong. Another thing, too, is with the illegal dumpers. I find that we're going to spend a lot of money picking up after them. How about we spend money on the front end with forensics? Let's look at whose mail's in there. Let's look at fingerprints. Let's identify people. Let's put something on them so that if I go and I dump waste and I get caught illegal dumping, guess what? For the next 52 weeks, I have to go every weekend and pick up somebody else's dump that's been thrown on the side of the road. I mean, you do that a few times, and then, oh, by the way, if you tell us somebody else that's dumping, we might give you a break. Some of this stuff will stop, but you got to put the onus back on the people that own it and not on the communities that are out here having to deal with it. And I think there's just so many more options that can be explored. You know, I agree with everything everybody said, and I think that they're just saying, you know, the easy way out is, guess what, we're in charge and we're going to do it anyhow, and I think that needs to stop, and I think we need to make it very clear that that's not acceptable as a community.
All right. Any comments from anybody else before we
Hey,
start?
Don, hey, Martinez.
Yes, go ahead.
So real quick, majority of the workable information we get is actually people from the valley, not even I mean, yeah, some of it's Lancaster, Palmdale. Very rarely is it someone that's local. The majority is 100% in the valley. People coming up here to dump and then go back down. We do arrest or put cases on people, but the DA's stance is that if it's not commercial, so this is, Don, you decide to fill up your back of your pickup truck with whatever trash and throw it, and you're not like have a dump truck, that it's an office hearing and they will not press charges on it. If it's and then they basically say, hey, sorry, slap on the wrist, get services, 2 years, whatever. A lot of them are felony. 100% of that is a felony. But the district attorney ultimately has the ability to file or not file. So we are making arrests. We are writing reports. It's falling on the DA right now. The current regime. If it's a commercial dumper, they put a little more teeth behind it. Anything over 50 cubic yards, or you're clearly doing it because they're charging someone to go dump and then they don't. All that other stuff. I think it's better because they're not necessarily getting jail time, but they're taking away their contractor's license and putting them taking away their Class A license and stuff. They're doing other stuff on them that I think impacts them a lot more. I'm part of the illegal dumping task force for LA County, but unfortunately that's the whole county. So, they're coming up with ideas of let's put cameras, let's do this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that might work in downtown LA down an alley, but that's not going to work out here. There's just too geographically big. Back before we lost everyone before COVID, we actually had a dedicated illegal dumping unit that would just literally drive the canyons and try to pick people. We can't man that today. It's not going to happen. We don't have enough manpower to even come close to manning it. But that's just a couple things I want to bring up, just listening in on so far what's going on.
Yeah, well,
that's good information to know, because it doesn't discourage illegal dumping.
Yeah, it's true. It looks like we have Cindy Grimes has her hand up patiently. Cindy, you want to unmute your mic? You've got the floor.
Yes. Thank you so much for the time tonight. As a participant in that meeting, I absolutely agree with Chris. It was a real big bummer to have to sit there and listen to the nonsense. I am going to hijack one of Mary's comments that I'm sure she's going to add, but how much does Acton and Agua Dulce actually produce? Let's see some statistics on how much we're really creating out here. Are we doing a great part composting? Are we using our chickens properly? Are we, chipping our brush? Do we really need all of this out here? We haven't seen any facts or figures on how much we're producing to push this kind of, I guess when I say financial burden onto us, along with, I'm sorry, I'm still laughing that they had taking our bins to the closest county road. I'd like to see whoever came up with that idea come on down and help us get our bins out to the nearest county road, along with what kind of mess that's going to be. I just think about our little community over here, and there's 32 houses. That's over 100 bins out along Escondido Canyon Road for, hey, maybe somebody who has nothing better to do on a Saturday night goes and starts plowing them down, and now we have trash all over the place, because we know that those things happen out here, along with distracted drivers. Candy, thank you so much for bringing up the animals and the wind, Dawn. Those are things that they are not thinking about when of the things that we deal with out here. I'm so happy that you guys are going to try to take this on again, and you know, it's very discouraging as a resident to know that the county is really trying to do this to us after we take so much pride in our community, and we're not the ones creating illegal dumping. We're not the ones doing a lot of this, and we're really trying hard to create an environment where it's clean and no methane and all these other things, and the air quality is just going to go to shit, pardon the expression, once all these trucks start coming up and down our roads every single week. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. We appreciate it. And it looks like we've got Kalittle Free is on the hand up for a while there. Kalittle?
Hi, everyone. So my name's Quincy. I actually work with WM Waste Management. I tried to get my camera on, but it's not working. But I just wanted to pop in and say, you know, I definitely, I'm just here as a listening ear. I hear everyone's concerns, and, you know, that's really why we want to attend these meetings, so we can hear, you know, what you guys have to say about the EIR, you know, so we can take those into consideration if we are the chosen hauler. So I just wanted to say that to everybody, you know, we take pride in, you know, helping Acton and Agua Dulce, or I do. You guys are actually one of my areas, so I want to help you guys, you know, any way I can. And I did see one comment about bringing the carts out to the roads. So just one thing, WM does offer, you know, for residents that do have longer driveways, we can come down into the property. So if you are worried about, you know, having to wheel carts or a big old dumpster down a driveway, you know, we could probably work something out if that, you know, was to come about. But if you guys have any other questions or concerns, I'd be more than happy to, you know, answer and help.
Well, thank you. If you can leave your email address or phone number or whatever contact information in the chat below, then we can get a hold of you that way after this.
Yeah, absolutely, I will.
Fantastic. We appreciate that. All right, so we've had a lot of yes, Chris is up again.
Yeah, so Deputy Martinez, what I just did was quickly Googled what the penalties are in the UK for illegal dumping, and you can see that they are substantial. You know, if you're a habitual, in the UK, there are, if you get caught leaving a fridge on the side of the road, the police in the UK can simply write you out a fixed penalty ticket there on the spot. There's no district attorney, there's none of that. And I think one of the comments that we made earlier is not that, I mean, your hands are somewhat tied, and there needs to be more effective penalties that discourage people from doing this. And certainly $66,000 fine and the prospect of between 12 and 60 months in jail would certainly make me think twice. But you know, but I think that the county needs to go back to the drawing board and perhaps even consider creating a hybrid of some of these proposals, because there are some very good parts in either of these, and I think there are some bits and pieces that can be added to it that would achieve the objectives that the county has to comply with SB 1383, that the state has to do that, and also that we as a community have to try and basically continue to be good citizens and dispose of our trash in the proper way and keep our community looking nice.
Well, and it seems to me, you know, to double up on that, seems like the property owners are the ones that, or the homeowners are the ones that are being penalized. In other words, we're footing the bill for picking up this illegal dumping, so to speak. One thought I had is, why can't some of the funds be used for like a community roll-off where they've got county property, they've got Vasquez Rocks, a perfect example, or the Central Park in Acton. There are county parcels, and they could have a roll-off available. You know, where you would, and the whole key is it's going to have to be manned. Someone's got to be there that can check the ID to see that, you know, Chris is bringing, he lives in the area. He's got a bunch of tree branches that broke off that he's brought to dump off in this, the green dumpster or whatever color dumpster it is. And then the next week it would be another one. But to me, you know, we look at a roll off, yeah, they're about $500 or $600, but that's if you pay it individually. And I'm thinking, you know, if it's something where, you know, they pick up one and drop off another, and it's just on a rotating basis, just an idea to throw in there when we go to draft this letter. Looks like Marcy has joined us, and she's got her hand up there, so I'll give you a minute to share your thoughts.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to add on a question to the nice lady from Waste Management, if she's still around, or to anybody who has possibly has the same question as I do. The road I live on, the road I live on is a dirt road that is over a mile from where the county road, the nearest county road, is just to my driveway.
Right.
And I currently have my dumpster. We pay extra for a larger dumpster that we can lock to help keep the animals and the birds and everybody else from using my dumpster. You know, that whole idea, I don't know if that's really a valid idea that they're still considering, but that whole idea about, you know, your dumpsters or your whatever barrels need to be on the nearest county road, that is completely unfeasible for a situation like ours over here on my road. So I didn't catch her name.
No, I'm here. My name's Quincy.
Hi, Quincy.
Yeah, hi.
Can you speak to that situation? I don't know if that's a valid thing that they're still actually considering making.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure if we were the chosen hauler, I'm sure there will be some room, you know, for negotiation, right? So one thing that we do for, you know, residents that do have long driveways is we go down into their property and we pick up their trash. You know, they don't need to haul it up their 2-mile long driveway, right? It's just, it's impossible. So that is something that we, you know, can offer if we are chosen, and also along with the locking of the lids, the animals. I mean, I would love some ideas. I did hear earlier today, I had another meeting about carts, and they're thinking about putting almost like a bear lock on it where you would need a thumb to press in, because since animals don't have thumbs, so you'd need to press in the lock in order to open it. And when the waste gets dumped, the way that the scientifics of it, it'll just open when it gets dumped. So that's something that I've seen a lot of people start to implement. So, I mean, that could possibly be an idea as well.
Is that on a plastic container?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because you haven't experienced the wind up here, a big mess. But like, I do have a long driveway, but I'm on a long dirt road where there's many homes along the way on this long dirt road. And I just happen to be about a mile in from the beginning of it. So you're a variety of neighbors who, all of us up here have the heavy metal dumpsters with the locking lids. You know, it keeps everybody else from using our dumpster and also keeps the animals out of it. But, you know, I want to know if that whole idea of, you know, taking, you know, everybody's dumpsters out to the nearest road is something that they're really truly considering, because for an area like this, it's absurd for not just myself, but probably most everybody. We don't just live on nice little tracked, you know, paved streets. So.
Yeah, of course. I totally understand. And with all these meetings that I am attending, and I've been attending all of the EIR meetings as well, I've been taking all of the notes, concerns back to my team, you know, so that way we can try to have a solution for you guys.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on Cindy Grimes' comment, you know, if you're sending 3 different trucks during the week or something to pick up all these different things, again, we're on a dirt road, a long dirt road. It's not the easiest situation. There are times if it rains on trash pickup day, the truck that does come up here once a week doesn't come up here. So I think this needs way more thought than is currently has been currently put towards it. And Chris and Mary, thanks for arranging this. And Chris, as usual, thanks for your summaries and making things, understandable without us reading 900 pages.
And that's a really great point about the dirt and the rain, and I will definitely bring that to my team as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Chris. Oh, turn your mic.
If I can just add to, my understanding is that the concept of hauling your trash can to the end of the street or the nearest paved road that Waste Management can pick it up on was part of the garbage disposal district proposal that they made, which is no longer under consideration. That being said, a couple of years ago when we provided our comments to the county on the original garbage disposal district, I think we made our thoughts, and they're very similar to what you've expressed, Mary, in terms of its infeasibility, or Marcy, in terms of its infeasibility. I don't think in the context of this, because it's not a foregone conclusion that the garbage disposal district and that method is completely out of consideration. I certainly think it's worth just cutting and pasting the feedback that we gave the county on that concept into the reply that we'll give them before the 5th of September, just to be sure that we're on the record again.
Okay. All right. So I think we have enough comments right now as far as putting together a letter. Mary, your thoughts?
Well, I'd like to just run through a couple things.
Okay.
And it's going to touch on a number of things that people have already talked about. In the notice for the DEIR, what is it for? It's the project background. It indicates that back in June, when they circulated the revised initial study, that property owners expressed concerns about the cost and logistics of treating unpaved roads with dust suppressants, as well as and I'm saying this, infeasibility, because I'm going to come back to that later, infeasibility of hauling their waste to the nearest public right-of-way. Based on these comments and concerns, Public Works has revised the project such that the project would not include waste service along private unpaved roads, such that it would include on private roads, because they have realized that Public Works can't tell us what to do with our private roads. But they say hauling the waste to the nearest public right-of-way is infeasible. Okay? And they also said, since the release of the initial study, Public Works has also determined that the impacts to solid waste capacity may be potentially significant, and thereby this topic is also discussed in the CIR. That's what's needed to be done, if they had only done it correctly. So let's go to, and I told you about how the project had changed with these improved services instead of just state law compliance.
Right.
I think that needs to be pointed out. Alternate, and I'll go over the alternates, but alternate one is no project. And in any EIR, there has to be a no project alternative. That's just a given. So that's always alternate number one. Alternate two is, alternate two is recycle every other week, which I'm fine with that. What they have indicated incorrectly is that if there is alternating recycling, there'll probably have to be more recycling trucks the week that they're picking up the recycling. Now, if you look at history, those of us with the 90-gallon bins have one bin, and we use that for a week. So if we now have 3 bins, recycling doesn't need to be picked up more than every other week, in my mind. I don't think there's going to be an overabundance of recycling, because I think there's going to be a lot of people who continue to go and recycle because they count on that extra little cash that they get from the recycling that they turn in. So alternative number 2 is not correctly studied.
Okay.
Alternate number 3 is commingling, which is basically what we've got now, where it has to go to a, what is it called? I have it written down. A high diversion materials recovery facility. And it's at something like that they can take everything that's in one bin and pull out the recycling, pull out the organic waste, and pull out the trash.
Okay.
There is only one legal, permitted, high diversion materials recovery facilities in the state of California.
Oh boy.
It's in San Jose. Okay? So, number 1, it's an alternative that we can't use.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay, let's go to alternate number 4, which is alternate number 4 is the cart rollout alternative, which is rolling the carts to the nearest public right-of-way. Now, in the beginning of this, they said it was infeasible, but yet they're saying it's an alternative. It's a viable alternative.
No.
And the 5th one is the split body truck, which I think that's a legit possibility. If you look at, okay, executive summary on page 7.
Yeah.
Alternate number 4, which is rolling it out to the nearest right-of-way, is the environmentally superior alternative, as it would accomplish the environmental objectives of SB 1383 while limiting local and regional dust. So I have questions about, okay, so high diversion, give me just a second. Is the cost of reaching the objectives, does it outweigh the benefit? We're trying to reduce greenhouse gases at the landfill, but we're creating a whole lot of unmitigated dust, and also greenhouse gases from the trucks that are coming up and down the road. There's just too many unknowns in this. I also know of families who share bins. Those options need to be explored. There's no indication on how long the contract term is going to be, and even the effectiveness of the various collection methods. Right now, the people who have 3 bins, how much contamination is going on within those 3 bins? Is there stuff that needs to be sorted out? Obviously, the mulch with the dirty diapers that's being dumped up by NENOC is not compliant. There's contamination within that, the green waste. So I'm frustrated with this whole concept,
No.
as
No.
you can tell.
Okay.
But I think what we need to do is similar to the last letter that we wrote, which is your outreach is bad, your EIR is flawed, and point out all these different things, and once again, give them more alternatives.
Yeah. Well, it certainly sounds like there's more study needs the road or whatever. I don't know how that all is going to get worked out. But it just seems, and I agree with you, I think when people get right down to it, how much recycling do they actually produce, and how much are they willing to put out there, every 2 weeks? I don't think they're going to fill up a 90-gallon barrel. I think they're going to fill up maybe a 5-gallon barrel, or to maybe the first week or the first time it'll be, because they've had it in their garage for 3 weeks and 3 years, and they can't wait to get rid of it. But on a continuing basis, which is what this is based on, it just seems like, it seems like there needs to be more study done. So,
And bottom line, if this is to come into compliance with SB 1383, in reality, the only thing that, let's give two options. There's two different options. One is commingling, which they say that there's adequate disposal sites, which there aren't. That's completely flawed. When I don't even want to get into that with the details on that with everybody. But we could continue with just one bin, commingling, and let it be sorted out at the trash place, or have two bins. Have your trash and have your green waste. There's no reason that we have to have recycling, because recycling is not part of SB 1383. The only part of recycling is it's mandatory for commercial accounts, commercial businesses. Because if you get a dumpster from Waste Management, you're considered a commercial account. But according to California state law, it's only commercial businesses who have to have recycling bins. There's nothing that says that as a resident that we have to be provided with recycling bins. It's suggested, but it's not required.
Okay. All right. Another comment on the gases. I think the nearest landfill is at least 20 miles away. So yes, it's the additional gases in our community, but it takes them 40 miles to make a round trip to their facility. So I think those, and I don't know if they're taken into account or not, but I think if we're grouped in with that, and we're talking about from Antelope Valley, it's got to be 20 miles one way with those big trash trucks. But anyway, on to the letter. Do we have enough information to come up with comments to return back to? What's the feeling of the council members that are out there?
I'm comfortable putting together a letter with everything that has been discussed tonight. Okay.
So, does anybody think there's anything additional that's important that needs to be brought up, or can we have a motion to authorize Mary to draft a letter with all of our comments and thoughts?
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we write a response to the DEIR with community and council concerns, and suggestions.
Okay. Let's see. Did we have enough last time? Okay. So just got a message from Chris saying, I believe we have enough that with what we wrote last time and discussed this evening to write the letter. So I agree with that. I think right now I'm looking for a motion to write this letter. If someone would like to make that motion.
I made the motion.
Mary just did, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second what Mary just said. How's that?
I'm sorry. I am not bipolar, whatever. Whatever. Okay. I have a one-track mind. All right. We have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Chris. All right. Any more discussion needed on that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Great. Well, I think that pretty much, we've already had the open forum as far as I'm concerned. I think now all we need is a motion to adjourn this special meeting, and we can all go about our way.
I motion to adjourn.
Okay? We have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Seconded by Cliff. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Perfect. Thank you, everybody. This meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Cliff.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.